It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, great to have you in studio today. Ken Zoll, Executive Director of the Verde Valley Archeaology Center, is in studio. You'll remember, Ken, you were here, I'm trying to remember how long ago it was.
Oh, several months.
Several months? Yeah, but your stories are always great. And then you sent out a press release about using photography for archaeology sites, and we're going to get to that. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about your museum, because that was another thing. Last time you were here, you were kind of getting it started and working on it, and we discussed a meteorite with turkey feather blanket.
Yes. Blanket
on it, and you just had some really neat things to talk about, and we haven't had you back since, at least not on this show. So tell me about the museum. How's that coming along?
Well, it's coming along very well. We opened up for about a year now in Camp Verde, right on Main Street, 385 South Main Street. And we're open every day of the week except Tuesdays, 10 to 4. Sundays are noon to 4. And we have a number of exhibit areas. We have exhibits on the prehistory of the area, on rock art, on pottery bits. We have a number of exhibits from Verde Valley families that have donated artifacts from their ranches. In fact, probably 90% of everything we have on display came from families in the Verde Valley that have lived here, pioneer families and others that have lived here a long time. And so it's an educational area to come through. We have just opened up our children's discovery area. We have a mural by a local artist painted that is the picture of the Verde Valley today. So it'll have a pit house ruin, it'll have hilltop ruins, it'll have bits of pottery and bits around it. And we actually have magnetized pieces that kids can come in and attach to it. So for example, you look at a pit house that has a little just depression in the air, in the ground, and there's a metallic piece that you can put on top of it that what did the pit house look like 2,000 years ago. So when the kids get all done with all 10 or 12 pieces, you now have a picture of what the valley looked like 2,000 years ago.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So you go from today to 2,000 years back with the kids. And we have a 5-minute video that tells the history of the area that's on a continual loop. You can come in there and sit down and relax, get out of the heat and just watch that for a while. So, it's coming along very well.
So just about everything in there, 90%, is from the Verde Valley.
Yes, yes.
And that was your goal, correct, with this museum?
Right. The whole point of the center is to keep items from leaving the Verde Valley. For the past 150 years, every time somebody would come in here from the Field Museum of Chicago or from Germany or other places out east, the Smithsonian, they would find things and cart them up and send them back east. And so just like the Museum of Northern Arizona was started because they were tired of people taking things out of the Colorado Plateau, we were started to keep things from being taken out of the Verde Valley, Sedona area. And so our primary function is research documentation, but also to preserve what we have here from leaving.
How much space do you have there?
Well, right now, the whole building is about 3,300 square feet. We just completed a review by Arizona State Museum, came in to look at our environment, our insect controls, everything under the sun, and they actually left and said we were qualified now to receive artifacts from federal land, state land, private collections. And so that's huge from our perspective because now we can accept things from any source, anywhere, because we're now recognized as following all of the state museum standards for curation and documentation, etc. And so we expect that now other collections will start to come our way because of that.
What kind of criteria do you have to follow? Being a museum and something that's going to bring in these old items.
Right. Well, there's you start with environmental controls. So you have to have it a certain temperature level, a certain humidity level.
Now, is this the whole building or just where you're storing things?
Mostly, well, anywhere there are exhibits. So that includes the museum area,
the whole building, which
is pretty much, yes, the whole building.
Yeah.
And so you've got that, plus you've got insect control. You have to have traps. You have to have documentation of that. There's all kind of documentation requirements as far as software is concerned, how you categorize things, how you store it. Once you have it in your storage area, how do you store it? How do you stack it? How do you document it? Do you put them in cardboard boxes, archival boxes? Do you put them in archival plastic materials? And so how you store the items in the back room is actually more important than how you store them or put them on display out for the public. So there's great deal of work involved with that. And fortunately, we have about 30 volunteers that have been trained in that, and they've just been working their tails off to get these collections documented and stored the proper way.
So locals have found you and have said, hey, we've got these great things that belong in your museum.
Right. In fact, not even locals. We've had two couples from Scottsdale come up and see our museum when they just happened to be coming through the area, and they said, oh my goodness, we have things from your area that we've collected 30, 40, 50 years ago. Would you like to have them back? And so, you know, we look at them and we say, sure, we'll take them back.
Of course.
So, we're getting a number of items from a whole variety of areas.
Now, it's not legal for me if I bump into an archaeological site that maybe you haven't found or anybody hasn't found and take things from there.
Right. If it's on federal lands, state lands, it is public property in effect. So you can look at it, you can pick it up, you know, and study it. But law requires you to just put it right back where you found it.
And then are we supposed to call someone and say, hey, we found this ruin here? Or do we not have to do that?
Well, you don't have to. You know, sometimes people will come in with photographs of things and they'll say, have you seen this? Have you been there before? And most of the sites have been documented. There's well over 2,500 documented sites in the Verde Valley.
That's amazing to me. You said that before the show. That is amazing to me, 2,500.
Yeah. There's over 2,500, and there's over 400 sites that have rock art there.
Oh,
so
wow.
we have one of the richest areas in all of the American Southwest. It's just that it doesn't get the publicity that Mesa Verde or Chaco Canyon get, because it just doesn't have we don't have the huge buildings, you know, with fancy brickwork like you find in those other areas. This basically was a valley of farmers. It was a living community, and so there are a lot of really cool sites and a lot of interesting rock art, but it doesn't have that sexiness or that cachet that Mesa Verde or Chaco Canyon have.
So your archaeology center, what do you have in right now that you would consider a feather in your cap that we'd want to come out and make sure we take a look at?
Well, we have first of all, we're just starting to create a Hopi consignment art shop. We're going to be receiving Hopi art. We have a little bit in there now, but we're going to, by the end of October, we'll have quite a large selection of original Hopi art that we're bringing down for that. We have a number of interesting collections. Right now we have we put one together for Corn Fest. So we have a number of katsinas and Zuni fetishes, all related to corn. That's going to be up for just about another month. You can always see what's going on in our research area. There's a nice big picture window, and you can look into the laboratory.
Oh, okay.
And especially on Thursdays and Fridays, we'll have crews in there documenting different collections. One thing that we'll be talking about in the coming months is we received over 5,000 items as part of the Paul Dyke family collection that was discovered in Rimrock. And so it's taken us at least 3 months already to start to document those items. We'll be done in a couple of weeks, and at our gala in October, we will be doing a little slideshow, a preview of some of the items. But there are items in there that are archaeologists that have lived here for 35, 40 years have said, I've never seen these things before. I've heard about it, but I've never seen them. And so we have, for example, we have a textile expert. She's world-renowned in prehistoric textiles, is dying to come down and examine what we have, because there are examples in this collection that people have heard about but have never seen. Multicolored things, plaids.
You know what? Hold right there.
Yes.
Let's come back. We'll talk about the Paul Dyke collection that's coming your way. Okay, let's take our first break. Okay. Ken Zoll, Executive Director of the Verde Valley Archaeology Center, in studio today. I'm Paul David. Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
In the 1950s and early 1960s, the United States government conducted nuclear testing in the Nevada desert. The wind carried contamination throughout parts of Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. People living in the affected areas during that time are known as downwinders. 20 forms of cancer have been linked to downwinders, and free cancer screenings are available to qualified individuals. Over $1.8 billion has been paid out in compensation by the U.S. government. Please check the Downwinders websites for more information.
A A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. You can't control where it will land, only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how to protect your community from wildfires.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. You can't control where it will land, only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how to protect your community from wildfires.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
Welcome back to Countywide. Ken Zoll, Executive Director of the Verde Valley Archeology Center in Camp Verde, is in studio today. A couple of quick things we want to make sure we mention. The website, verdevalleyarcheology.org, is a good website to go to for more information. And there's a couple events coming up, one on September 30th at 7 p.m. at the Cliff Castle Casino Hotel Ballroom. Why don't you tell us what that is first, then we'll get back into the Paul Dyke.
Sure, we do regular lectures throughout the year, and September 30th is the inauguration of the Sherman Loy Memorial Award that the center has inaugurated. And the Loys were a longtime pioneer family in the area, and Sherman Loy was one of our first life members to join the center. And so he passed away a couple of years ago. And in his memory, because he was such an avid avocational archaeologist, we inaugurated this award to give annually to some avocational archaeologist who has contributed significantly to the knowledge of the Verde Valley archaeology. And this year, the first recipient is going to be Joe Vogel. He's he retired from Eastman Kodak back in '87, retired to Prescott, and he's a little pilot. And he's flown all over the Verde Valley's Prescott areas and photographed innumerable archaeological sites. And in the process, he's discovered sites that were not known before, and also he's flown around to document vandalism of the site. And so we're going to be giving him this award. He'll be showing some of his aerial photography of the area. We'll have Dr. Wilcox from the Museum of Northern Arizona giving a talk about the importance of his work. And so this is free and open to the public, 7 o'clock, as you said, Cliff Castle Casino Hotel Ballroom. And it should be a very interesting evening.
That's Tuesday, September 30th. That's coming up. All right, tell me, because you started talking about this before the show, but you've got a collection from the Paul Dyke family. Tell me about that. Yeah,
Paul Dyke, surprisingly, is not well known in the area here. He moved in here around 1936, bought a ranch in Rimrock, basically that borders Montezuma Well, a national monument. And he was famous as a Plains Indian painter. He lived among the Blackfoot and the Sioux, Canada, and in the Dakotas. His parents back in the 1800s lived up there, and he became fascinated with the Plains Indians and basically became a painter, and a pretty famous painter of them. And over his lifetime, he collected Plains Indian artifacts. And when he passed away in 2006, his family donated it all to the Wild Bill Cody Museum up in Cody, Wyoming. And it was such a large collection, they had to actually build a 2,500 square foot building just to curate what he had. Well, it turns out that in the 60s, he had a excavation done on 5 caves that were on his property right on Beaver Creek. And this was done by LA County Museum in the 60s, and they found innumerable items. They were all boxed, crated, bagged, and stuck in a storage room in his ranch, and they sat there for the last 50 years until he died. And the family came up and said to us, would you like to have these items? And there's well over 5,000 items. Some of them are so unique that archaeologists that have lived and worked in the Verde Valley for 35, 40 years say they have heard about such things but had never actually seen them before. And so we're actually getting inquiries from archaeologists around the Southwest who wanted to come in to study some of the elements.
You mentioned they have a lot of color in them.
Yeah, there's a lot of textiles, a lot of weaving material. There's some that have 2 and 3 colors in there. They have plaids. There's some you'd swear it was silk made in Belgium. I mean, it's so fine. And to have these done, 2,000 years ago with crude wooden looms is just phenomenal. And so it's just amazing what they had. So this collection we will start to display in March. We need to get some funding for some of the display materials, but we hope to be able to start to display it next March at our gala coming up in October at the Poco Diablo Resort. We're going to have a slideshow of some of the items, some of the more unique items for the first time that the public will be able to see.
So what's it going to take to get through all that stuff? And where are you going to put it all?
Well, we do have enough storage space right now. When Arizona State Museum came in, they actually gave us some clues as to how we could expand the space that we currently have to store more items. But clearly we're going to run out of space pretty soon. So we're currently negotiating with the landowner in Camp Verde. He's willing to donate almost 10 acres of land in Camp Verde. He wants to sell us the parcel that's next to it that has right now 8 unexcavated pit houses in it. And so in effect we'd be planning to build our new museum repository on a site that was a pit house village over 2,000 years ago. So that's pretty exciting. So we're really working on that. That we hope to close the deal on that by the end of the year and actually start a campaign to raise the funds to build these buildings.
What's it going to take?
Initially, well, we're working with a builder, we're working with an architect, we're going to start coming up with the cost estimates. The initial estimates are anywhere from $5 to $8 million to build the whole structure. If you want your name on the museum, we'll take a couple of $1 million and we'll put your name on the museum. But all of that's being worked out. We have a team, a design build team that's been put together, and we'll be working on that over the fall, and by shortly after the first of the year, we'll be able to announce the land and show drawings and even a scale model of the buildings and begin to develop a funding program.
Now, are we talking about where the land is?
It's in the town of Camp Verde.
Right.
It's in the town limits of Camp Verde, not too far off I-17.
Okay. And that's as close as you want to get to announcing where the land is?
At this point.
At this point. Okay. All right. That's fine. Now, you mentioned earlier that you had to get some funding put together to put together a display for the March show. What kind of displays are we talking about?
Well, interestingly, because this display was found in caves, we've been talking to a local Verde Valley artist, and what we're going to do is we've asked him to give us an estimate to build about a 12 to 14 foot long cave wall out of like paper mache.
There's imagination.
And then there'd be recesses in it, and we'd just slide these glass display cases in and out, almost like window boxes, and so we could rotate the items that are in there. So they would keep these items on little niches within their cave walls, and so we're going to try to build this cave wall out of paper mache in the center with these little nichos where we will have these lighted displays of the different items.
Now, how old will these items be?
They estimate that most of these pit houses are around 650. The caves, rather. I'm sorry, the caves in this collection. Okay. There are some pit houses nearby. That's why I get confused. But most of the collections were actually in the caves. We're estimating they were probably occupied as early as 650 AD. And there's some evidence that there was actually pre-Sanawa people, archaic people, going back even into the BC era, living in these caves.
Well, you gotta be like a kid in a candy store, aren't you?
We already are. We already are.
I bet you are.
We get the archaeologists keep coming in wanting to take pictures, and we keep saying no, not yet. It's quite a collection.
Good. Let's take another break. Verde Valley Archaeology Center Executive Director Ken Zoll in studio. Stick around, Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Time to wake up. I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job.
Thanks.
Got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does.
And like that, you're a job creator.
In the 1950s and early 1960s, the United States government conducted nuclear testing in the Nevada desert. The wind carried contamination throughout parts of Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. People living in the affected areas during that time are known as downwinders. 20 forms of cancer have been linked to downwinders, and free cancer screenings are available to qualified individuals. Over $1.8 billion has been paid out in compensation by the U.S. government. Please check the downwinders' websites for more information.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back to Countywide. Great to have you along. A couple events we want to make sure we talk about for the Verde Valley Archeology Center, which is located at 385 South Main Street in Camp Verde, at least at this point in time. I'm going to go down your list of stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
All right,
Thanks.
Ken? So you just sit back and relax, and I'll take care of this part. It's open 10 to 4. Monday through Sunday, except for Tuesdays, you're closed, right?
Yes.
Tuesdays closed noon to 4 on Sundays. Your next lecture is a presentation of the Sherman Lloyd Memorial Award to Joe Vogel, Prescott, for aerial photography. You sent me a nice picture of some of that, and it's where that meteorite you were talking about. Real quick before we continue on, are we going to get that meteorite?
We've contacted Arizona State University Center for Meteorite Studies a couple times, and verbally they said, yes, we can let you have it for about 6 months. So we're hoping to have that available and visible next March.
Because I know that was a pretty amazing find, and so when you get that, let me know, and we'll talk about that. Tuesday, September 30th, is the presentation of the Sherman Lloyd Memorial Award at 7 p.m. at the Cliff Castle Casino Hotel Ballroom. The International Archeology Day Gala is coming up on October 18th at 6 p.m. at Poco Diablo Resort in Sedona on Highway 170. I think most people are aware of that. And there's going to be a live auction there. Chris Kazian from Sedona Fire, the fire chief there, he's going to be your auctioneer, which I think is really awesome. Silent auction, and then all kinds of, and then, a preview of the Paul Dyke collection. That was one of the big things that's definitely going to be there.
Right, our featured speaker is Marshall Trimble, Arizona's official historian.
Right,
so he's always interesting.
He's always fun to talk to as well. Okay. Anything else you need right now? You need donations, of course. Do you have enough volunteers?
We have, we can always use volunteers. Volunteers for anything. We're going to start our field survey work pretty soon, going out in the field and surveying different archaeological sites that we've been asked to review. So if you like to hike and you want to learn about archaeology, you can come on out and volunteer for that. We can always use docents, and just come on by and
we'll go from there.
And go from there.
Yeah, stop by and go from there. All right. Ken.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you come in. I love your stories. They're always a lot of fun. That's today's Countywide. I'm Paul David. We'll talk to you again next time.